They're all dead. Don't have to wait this time. 'Cause I'm giving up on my sense of
Welcome back, everyone. Union Smack sneaking one in right before the end of the year arrives. Our very last episode, 2021, right here, Hibiki TMD on YouTube. Hit that red button down below, subscribe. All the goodness here on the channel, nerdy gaming, wrestling content, everything. If it's nerdy and up your alley, it's right here, I guarantee you. Speaking of right here, I am finally back in here for this episode, holding down the fort for like the past month. My main man, the Iron Man of this channel. Some things never change. Matt Tennant, man, welcome back. Good to be back, and thank you again. Like I said, going solo last couple episodes. Work, sicknesses, tech issue bullshit aside, the stars and moons have aligned, and we are meant to be back just in time for fucking rockabilly. Welcome back, Matt. What's going on, man?
It's good to have you back, Travis. And what a last episode we are ending on this year. But, you know, I've been how I've been, as you say, like sickness, work, but a nice Christmas at the end of all of it. And do you know what? Thank you to everyone who's stuck with us this year. And thank you to everybody who's bought the books. I have to say, like, we sold a good amount over Christmas, like even without expecting to. So thank you very much to everyone who bought them. And as usual, you can find me on Twitter at BruiserMate. You can purchase the books from lulu.com and just look forward to everything that we've got coming in the new year, including Union Smack shorts. I've recorded the first two. I've got the rest ready to record, so I will do that when I have time. But it's how can we not mention we're going on to all different platforms, Travis, in 2022. We are growing, we're going upwards, and yeah, exciting times to come.
Branching out, and Union Smack Shorts is one of 3 brand new shows debuting in the month of January. So much new stuff coming to the channel. I know that's been a little slower pace here with the uploads. I try to sneak in Hibiki Plays. I know the reset button has recorded since Halloween. I promise things are going to pick up, and you'll see that just in the new year. So, yeah, get over there. Check out Matt, and check out me on Twitter at Huss Hogan. I don't know what you want to tackle first, Matt. The breaking news from yesterday when we record this with Tony Storm, or our listener questions. So, I mean, pick your poison.
Let's go Tony Storm first, because I feel like it's a bigger issue. And I mean, I say issue. People have made it into a bigger issue than
right.
I think it actually is.
Exactly. Shocker. The internet wrestling community overreacted to first day breaking news or something. Batten down the hatches. Yes, you heard it. You're not seeing double. Shockingly, Tony Storm. Should I say shockingly after this year? Honestly,
I mean, not really.
No,
what, 100 wrestlers gone, and then someone walks out right at the death of the year. I don't think it's shocking anymore.
I guess the only main reason I would say shockingly is like she just worked a house show the night before. She just had a title match with Charlotte Flair on SmackDown last week, which she lost. Tony Storm gone. Apparently now more news comes out on day 2 of this that she dipped. She didn't tell anybody. People were shocked. She just flew the fuck home after this house show the other night. Unbeknownst to anyone. I think there was a quote. They didn't say who the female talent was. Just like, I don't know where the fuck she went. This is crazy. Or something. That was the actual quote or something. I don't blame her. I don't think anyone could blame her. Let's look at Toni Storm's run since July. It seems like forever ago. They announced on main roster television. Toni Storm's coming to SmackDown. July, I think she had one match with Zelina Vega. She beat her,
Yeah.
and then she sat in the back for months. And what's so weird about this news about her release, the other day Ryan Satin just literally uploaded an interview with her talking about her frustrations in the time period last summer. And it's just so crazy how this worked out. We know she's had some issues, Matt, with like deactivating social media and harassment and bullying and her just mental health stuff. And by all means, do what you got to do, take care of yourself. I mean, obviously, neither one of us blame her. I guess my question to you is who's next? Because you got to feel like Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm are kind of one and the same. They both kind of came up together. Both have the Australian upbringing. I feel like I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'll stop rambling.
I mean, I like you say, you can't blame Toni Storm the way she's been treated. I think it goes back even before she was called up to the main roster. Like, her NXT run was absolutely awful in that they had nothing for her, and they just kept like peddling her out losses to like Zoe Stark and all that. And it was just the Toni Storm that went to America, Travis, wasn't the same one that left NXT UK, not at all.
No.
And I think she probably expected more when she left the UK, and obviously it delivered very little. But it's like, I have to question WWE now. They've got Charlotte, they've got Becky, Bayley's obviously coming back at some point. But who, I don't know what company has Toni Storm, lets her just leave an event, ask for a release, and then they don't even question why. And basically it was just, yeah, all right, bye. So what the fuck?
Yeah. I mean,
You know what I mean? It's like,
this is also day 2 of the news. So I mean, all that we know is that she went home and they released her. We don't know if there's attitudes. We don't know if there's conflict. We don't know anything. All that we know is what we've seen is just the pies in the face, the crying like a baby after she got beat last week. Literally, she cried in the ring after the loss. And podcasters say it all the time, and it goes back to this. This company has forgotten, Matt, how to book baby faces properly. They make all their baby faces look like fucking nerds and losers.
yeah, and I'm sure the booking was something to do with it, Travis. You know, you can't be a wrestler of Toni Storm's caliber and just be happy with what you've been doing in WWE for the last, 6-7 months. There's no way. So I'm sure that's something to do with it. But obviously, her mental health, you know, you have to do what's best for you at the end of the day. And I don't think Toni Storm's mental health would have improved if she'd just stuck around on the main roster.
Yeah.
Because they'd have dropped her from this Charlotte feud into the mid card, into the lower card, and then she'd have been sat in catering again by WrestleMania. And I don't think that would have done her any good. No. So I think all around, like, this is the best thing for her. She is one of the best wrestlers, best female wrestlers in the world. She's proved that before she got to NXT UK. And you know what? I just wish her luck, Travis, because if she is going through something, you know, mentally, then she needs to get away from the spotlight and deal with it. If she's just not happy in her, you know, career with WWE, then obviously the best thing to do is just step away from it, because we've seen careers ruined by people staying too long and just not being happy and just being content. You know what I mean? I'll just take the cash.
First name that comes to mind, Dolph Ziggler.
Yes, exactly. And stop caring. You stop caring about the craft. You stop caring about, you know, what you're doing. And it's more, I can't wait to get out of this business, rather than I can't wait to get out there and entertain fans. And
I think most damning and most importantly in that is the fans also stop caring about you, Dolph Ziggler. Every time you come on the TV, it's just cold heat. Nobody. It's just like, wow, we're still doing this. I think the biggest glaring thing that no one has really addressed or talked about this entire year for all these almost 100 releases, this is insane. This is the most ever, by the way, officially, guys, is the mental health this does take effect. Can you imagine going to your job every day and seeing someone who works with you and they've gotten promoted, they're like a manager, and they're always on point, they're a great worker. And my reference there is a Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was killing it and merged. I mean, yeah, the storylines weren't his fucking fault, guys. And just to see him like shit canned and all these potential huge stars, Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, all these fucking guys just gone like nothing. Can you imagine what anxiety that puts on you every day to think that you're literally fucking walking on glass in that company? I can't imagine why people don't see the writing on the wall anymore. Kyle O'Reilly knew he had no place in that company. Johnny Gargano, they understand that they don't fit what they're looking for, especially since they blew up NXT. They're going a completely different way with it, and a lot of these people are realizing I need to get out of this ship. The rats are jumping. The question is they can't. Why? The question is, why does everyone think they should always go to AEW? And that's simple. It's because AEW they're the most viable competition. So that's human nature to think they should. But you also got to be realistic. All these people can't go, guys. I'm sorry. They can't.
Yeah, of course they can't. Tony Khan can't afford a cast of thousands. He might have 3 TV shows a week. I think one's still on YouTube. But you still can't fit 150, 200 wrestlers into, 4 hours worth of TV a week?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm afraid for all the, AEW lovers, etc., like, oh yeah, let's have them, bring them in. It's going to come to a point where even you're going to turn around and go, hang on a minute, why isn't he being used or she being used? And it's like, well, you've got 200 wrestlers on your roster. Not everyone can be used. So I think it's time to be careful for Tony Khan, who he employs now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there are exceptions. Ember Moon, Tony Storm, Keith Lee, Karrion Kross. These are all names you need on your roster. But I think for them to be integrated and be successful in AEW, Tony Khan is going to come to a point where we're going to hear AEW have released 10 wrestlers.
In my opinion, he's already maxed out his tag team division. That tag team division is quite possibly the best in the entire world, especially with the Briscoes coming in. You got Red Dragon now, FTR. Look at that goddamn tag division. But because it's so stacked, look at PNP. They should have been champs a year ago. And they have become completely an afterthought. I think it is the best bet because it's Tony Storm, because that women's division, God knows, needs some talent in it, in my opinion. So I think that's a layup. But personally, I'd love to see her go back to Stardom because Stardom's on fire over there right now. They're printing money. They're doing really well, and she did great in Stardom.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she's going to, put her name on any contract for a big American company within the next year or two. She's going to go back to the Indies. She's going to go back to Japan. Obviously, she's, at least last I heard, she was engaged to Juice Robinson.
Yeah.
So, there's a life for her in Japan. There's something for her in America if she wants it, but, not mainstream. And she'll be back in the UK, I assume, in Progress and, on the Indies here. So there's a life for Tony Storm outside of WWE. She made it work beforehand. WWE was just a stopgap for her, if anything. And she'll be fine, everyone. Let her work through whatever she needs to work through mentally. And, I wouldn't worry about Tony Storm. She's going to be absolutely fine.
That's exactly, you talk about a stopgap. That's exactly, if I was a worker right now and I just got released from the WWE, I would do that exact same thing. I wouldn't do a Tony Nese and go right there. And Adam Cole, that's another kind of caliber name, but guys like lower level like Tony Nese, work the fucking indies, make those hefty paydays while you can, and then go. When your value starts decreasing a little bit. Just hone your craft some more. Fall in love with what you fell in love with in the first place again. And I think that's a big thing. The WWE makes these people fall out of love with wrestling. How many fucking interviews have we seen over the years where it's just like they suck the passion out of me?
Yeah.
Let's get to our questions. Once again, for our main man, Lucas Hackett this week. Matt, what does Lucas have on tap for us?
So first off, question 1 of 2. If you were in charge of WWE back in the mid-90s, how would you have booked Mark Moreau? And this is a subject that we've talked about, I think, over the past few months.
Yeah. I think more and more we sneak it in, the more we have to review Mero matches. For me, personally, I'll go first. I think the more Mero was exposed, it was inevitable that he was going to have a glass ceiling because he wasn't a top guy, in my opinion. He didn't have all the tools. He was a fine worker, especially as the Wild Man. After the knee injury, he was, I don't want to say a shell of himself, but he was more limited in the boxer gimmick. So this was like prime Mark Mero, what he was truly capable of doing. Intercontinental level at best, but If he would have been in the WWF, we've said this before, 5 years earlier, would have been a huge deal. But it was just an out of time. He still kind of had the mullet. You know what I mean? It was just grunge was the cool thing now, and like he was just from another era, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, for me, I think booking him anywhere other than WCW was going to be difficult because of Johnny B. Bad and because the Johnny B. Bad character, was so well received in WCW to a degree. I mean, we've said it before. It's part of the reason why I think he failed in WWF because they wanted Johnny B. Bad when they hired him, but they couldn't have the character.
Yeah.
Not just because it belonged, I think, to another company, but because they already had that type of thing with Goldust.
Exactly.
And if I was in charge, if I was booking him, I think I would have devised a way to have an Attitude Era version of Johnny B. Bad, despite the Goldust thing, despite him having done the character already. Because that's what Vince basically paid for before he found out he couldn't have it. I'd have had him push some boundaries, go over the top of what he did in WCW, probably more than Goldust had even. But at the end of the day, I don't think it mattered what you did with him. He was never going to get that far in WWF, like you said, intercontinental level at best. And honestly, I don't think a lot of thought was put into him at all when they realised they couldn't actually have what they wanted.
Well, that and the final nail in the coffin, the kiss of death, putting him with his wife Sable, killed him.
Yeah.
Dead. Because we're talking about the horniest era of pro wrestling, where teen boys were just all about, you know what? That did him that did him negative favors. It just made male fans resent him. And I feel like every time, the one exception over all the years that I've seen that done is Randy Savage and Elizabeth. For some reason, we didn't resent Randy Savage. We respected the fuck out of Randy Savage. And I think it's because maybe it started as a heel abusive gimmick. So we saw the slow burn angle of he's getting better with her, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the fuck it was, but nobody resented Savage as a face with a woman. But every other baby face with a woman I can ever remember, fans just, goddamn, Charlie Haas, Miss Jack, who gave a fuck about Charlie Haas? You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of one. I can't. Ricky Steamboat, when he had his wife Bonnie, that made it cringe. Like, ugh, why are you out there with your baby? Like, I want to see the dragon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Good question. Thanks, Lou. And Lucas has another one, right?
He does. In your honest opinion, who has got to be your least favourite female wrestler in WWE? Now, this doesn't specify past, present, whatever. So, yeah, there's so much to choose from, Travis. But I think I'd go with Eva Marie. I think
she's gone. They fired her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking this to mean ever.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's like it didn't specify past or present. So I'm going to say overall, Eva Marie. I don't think she belonged in a wrestling ring or anywhere near. I don't think she could wrestle. I don't think she had a personality, and she just used the business really as a stepping stone to other ventures, which is, it's fine. It's not what she wanted to do with her life, so she used it to do other things. But while she was there, I didn't see anything. And obviously, there's cases to be made for women like Nia Jax and Tamina, even Sable, etc. But for me, and I'm not sticking up for Nia Jax or anything, but they all gave it a shot. You know what I mean? More than Eva Marie did, in my eyes.
Well, I feel like that's the most Nia Jax. I feel like Nia Jax tried just enough to suffice being able to get through him, and then she just degressed and stopped because she was making the money and she thought she was bulletproof because my cousin Dwayne, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, she's just completely late. Tamina, I think, is a case of she's no spring chicken. I feel like Tamina, when she first debuted with the Usos in 2010, 2011, she was capable hand. She wasn't setting the world on fire, but she could work. She's also another person I just feel like has gotten worse in the ring. She has two left fucking feet. All time in WWE, I can't argue Eva Marie as far as just fucking useless. And you're making me dive to like the bottom of the barrel like diva searches here. People like Joy Giovanni come to mind. My God, just some of the useless. They're just fucking plastic bodies that are there for no reason. God rest her soul, and I hope I don't get shit for this. Ashley Massaro was terrible. She was fucking awful. Maria Kanellis has always been awful to me. She's awful on a mic. I know some people think she's decent. These people have no place in the business, and we know the reason they're in the business. And it sucks for women like, like an ODB who had all the talent in the world, was a great on the fucking mic, but didn't look like these women, just never got that big break,
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that throughout this question, we've actually found out that you keep a list of all the women you hate in wrestling.
Yeah, true. You don't understand how hard I had to think into my 2004 to get Joey Giovanni pulled out of my fucking hat there. So thank you for making me work.
She even existed. Like all them just worth. I'm not gonna say worthless people, but they're worthless wrestlers. Just like I've cast them from my mind.
You know what blows my mind too is like when they have one of those women from like OVW back in the day, and it turns out they could work their ass off, but they were put into an angle to be like Cherry from Deuce and Domino. She could work. A lot of people don't know that. She was actually really good, but you would never know. She's in a fucking poodle skirt, Peggy Lee. Thank you, Lucas, for your questions. As always, man, we really appreciate it. And before we've even started In Your House review, my brain's fried from that, so...
You need to lay down now, everyone. My God.
Well, it's time I think we head back. Retro review once again, Matt. Rochester, New York. In Your House, Revenge of the Taker. Coming off the heels of WrestleMania 13. Talk about, in my opinion, probably one of, if not the most transitional times in the company was the spring of 97. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think it is. I think it the landscape of the company I changed drastically.
Yeah. Well, it was at this time, freeze frame it, it was in the process. Like the new Raw is War set just debuted a couple weeks before this, or was about to, roundabout. We just came off the heels of that awful Raw in the Sky Dome with terrible lighting, the lowest rating ever, Bulldog and Owen main evented that. So they definitely were trying to shake shit up. You saw what it was shifted to. Bret Hart, just the genesis of this heel run with my all-time favorite stable, the Hart Foundation. There was a lot of good TV in here, but because it's a transitional period, when we're sucking up the dirt in our vacuum, we're not filtering out all this shit. There's a lot of shit to filter through on this pay-per-view still. Don't get it twisted, guys.
Yeah, there's and we started. Well, I say we. I started with free-for-all match because they fucking include them on these DVDs, and I put myself through it every week. The Sultan versus Flash Funk.
Oh, God.
Luckily, this was only 3 minutes long, and it was meant to be Barry Windham versus Flash Funk, but he no-showed. So we got the Stalker instead. No, we didn't. We got the Sultan instead. I mean, what can I say? 3 minutes. It was fine. There was some botches. Nice tilt-a-whirl slam by the Sultan. Almost dropped Flash Funk on his head and broke his neck. That could have been a nasty moment. I don't know. Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't Flash Funk versus Leif Cassidy. But it was fine. And the Sultan won with a powerbomb from the top rope. And that's all I've got to say. Like, what did you say about a 3 minute match that involves the Sultan?
I guess the only thing I can say is like the last time both you and I were actually together on an episode, we were talking about a Flash Funk match. How fast did Vince McMahon fall out of love with this gimmick? Free for all squash in 3 minutes. 2 months later.
Exactly.
Good God.
Oh mate. And then the Hunter Hearst Helmsley match coming up on In Your House 15. Just Flash Funk was on a nosedive down that roster. And Vince McMahon was just like, I'm done dancing now. You're bored of you. Get away.
If only they could have called him Bearcat back then, maybe. I would have saved it. Here's an on-the-spot question for you. Which gimmick did Vince McMahon fall out of love with faster, Keith Lee or Flash Funk? Oh, that's tough.
Keith Lee. He kept Flash Funk around for a good chunk, for his own amusement, possibly. But yeah. I think Keith Lee was just.
I think a lot of the timeline with Keith Lee too to me shows that Vince was like, as soon as Keith Lee debuted on main, oh God, cover him up, singlet. Oh, that music's awful. New music. The name sucked. The promos weren't good. Like Vince, you could just see it week by week. Like, we got to fix this, put a patch there, plug this hole. And by the end of it, you had this incredibly large, intimidating man in this ridiculous singlet with pink claw mark. A bear cat. My God. But, I mean, I'm going to say tie. I'm going to say tie.
Well, maybe if Keith Lee had come out in a green neon all-in-one suit and danced to a
Okay.
theme song that started with "Oh, Keith, you're so funky." Maybe
Brutus
he'd have
Clay.
stuck around a bit longer. Who knows?
He could be a NWA North American champion like Tyrus right now, at least.
Jesus Christ.
This show, though, excuse me, officially kicked off with.
Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith versus the Legion of Doom for the WWF Tag Team Championships.
Yep.
I mean,
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I thought the booking of the match was fucking weird, and it felt like a little bit of overkill. But I guess it served its purpose to make Owen and the Bulldog look like shitty heels and, cheating the baby faces. The LOD just returned. My God, were they over right here? That soon faded a year later, and fans just kind of looked at him as a joke. I don't know. It's a hard match to review because there's nothing in it that was like terrible. I don't feel like the pace was picked up for a typical Owen Hart Bulldog match. Usually it's bam bam. We're doing maybe a few wrestle, but this one obviously there was the LOD. It's not like they're in there with Furnace and Lathong, but it was fine.
I mean, I found it very formulaic, but then, that was all Legion of Doom matches in WWF. If we're being honest,
Yeah.
I think Owen and the Bulldog were just coming off the storyline of dissension and then being brought back together by Bret Hart and forming the Hart Foundation, etc. And they had the whole thing going on with Steve Austin, which rolled through several previous In Your House events. But I expected more, and they got their bits in. Owen, lovely enziguri, to Hawk, but I think they all phoned it in. And what the fuck was this ending? Like, the ending to this match, Travis, it was a false ending, and then it went too long when it restarted.
It felt botched. Somebody missed their cue, is what it felt like.
I think Bret Hart missed his cue.
Yeah.
I think
Bret fucking late as usual. Shocker, guys.
And for people who didn't see it, let me think. LOD hit the Doomsday device on Owen, and Bret Hart was meant to race in as the referee got to 2, break it up, and it was meant to end in a DQ for the Legion of Doom, but he arrived too late, and you could see the referee stalling the count, just ridiculously now, until Bret got there. It's like Owen could have just kicked out, and then Bret attack the Legion of Doom when he got there.
Yeah.
But no, it's like they stuck to this rigid end, and it just looked really bad.
Yeah, just a big schmoz finish. This match went 12 minutes I hate that if you're going to go over 10, give me kind of a payoff. Unless, maybe I can give it a pass for a main event angle if you want to progress storyline, but goddamn, I don't know. By the end of it, just felt like another fucking waste of time.
Yeah, it did. And I think the false finish before the actual finish, I think that killed a lot of the Legion of Doom's heat as well. Just like, once people thought they'd won the tag titles, it was like, oh yeah, the crowd really popped. And then it was, oh no, bring us down again.
Eventually they would play hot potato with the Godwins, the nasty replay of breaking Henry Godwin's neck, which is actually, it holds up, like Shotgun Saturday Night or something. And then, the birth of the New Age Outlaws, who we'll get to in a little bit, have no fear.
Dear God. It wasn't all doom and gloom for Owen Hart either. A few weeks later, April 28th, he would actually beat Rocky Maivia for the Intercontinental title. And then the Hart Foundation would obviously begin to collect all the gold by summer.
Speaking of Rocky Maivia, he's up next. Before we went to our next match, Matt, I think we had a promo in here, right?
Oh, we did. Doc Hendricks was backstage with a jubilant Owen Hart and British Bulldog. They were celebrating their tag team title retention, and then they were told that Steve Austin had arrived in the building. And credit to Davey Boy, he wasn't just reading his lines here. Like, I loved his reaction when he found out Austin had arrived. And yeah, credit where credit's due for that.
Sometimes the Bulldog could pull through in a promo, but it was like it had to be like an outburst anger for it to work. Other than that, what did I just see on Twitter though? Remember that Burger King commercial with him? You get a free hamburger if you read the Daily Sun.
Yeah.
It's so bad, so bad. I mean, Owen was always great. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time when, like I said, they were just coming off their own little storyline, and now they had to play sort of second fiddle to Brett, because nothing was more important, in that Hart Foundation '97 than Brett versus Austin.
Exactly. I was just about to say, I think the main reason the Bulldog stuff right here gets a pass for everyone is just this was the hottest angle in the whole company. So it was just everything was firing on all cylinders. It all just worked.
It did. What didn't work, Travis?
I knew you were going to segue that. Good.
Beautiful segue. Next match. Oh, dear. And we bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, for the final review of 2021, Savio Vega as the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship against champion Rocky Maivia.
We'll give out a little mini.
Don't give you any presents.
Exactly. Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll give a little mini year-end award right here. This has to be officially, since we've relaunched Union Smack, the worst match we reviewed all year, in my opinion.
I mean, that's up against some tough competition, but do you know what? Yeah, it's got to be up there.
You know what? Even in that Survivor Series match with the Berserker, I still feel like I got a chuckle out of it. Right here, this was the cure, literal, for insomnia. This was a sleeping pill in wrestling match form. This was the most non-paced, bullshit, boring fuckfest I've watched in a long time. Thank God. I think I DM'd you this. Ron Simmons on commentary here. Tremendous as always. This is the only thing that kept me from nodding off was Ron Simmons.
And this was the second time they presented this match in 7 days. Let's not forget. This wasn't a one and done. They had this match on the April the 14th Raw in South Africa, where Savio Vega pinned The Rock to earn this title match. So, double bubble, Travis.
What was the fascination of keeping Savio Vega on board for so long in this time?
Nice.
I
understand when he was a babyface, he got sort of he was the happy foreigner, happy to be there. But when he, towards the end of that babyface run into his nation, right, it was just terrible. And then Los Boricuas, and just it went on, and somebody in that office went, do you know what, Savio Vega, brilliant. It's like, no.
If anything, the Gang Wars in '97 has taught me is that all gang members dress exactly the same, like twins, if they're in a gang. The same outfits. I don't know, man. This was also the doldrums, the very tail ass end of the shitty babyface Rocky Maivia run, where the fans had totally flipped on it. That didn't help matters, where it's just nobody gave a shit about this Rocky Maivia kid anymore. It was just shoved down their throats so much. Ahmed Johnson, I guess, was the beacon of hope in this whole segment. By the way, the match in itself, result, and just there wasn't one memorable moment in this match. I remember like a spin kick and a rest hold.
I tell you what was the best thing, the most memorable thing, that it wasn't even part of the match. It was The Rock's interview beforehand with Kevin Kelly.
God.
And it wasn't great. It wasn't yet the people's champion. He could talk his way out of a paper bag, but you could see the charisma beginning to shine through. I think here, on his face and his attitude, and that was it.
Something about the look of him still always jumped off the screen, even in the shitty babyface run. He still had the X Factor look, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And you know what? How bad is it when the pre-match interview is the best thing about the entire match? And this had to go 13 minutes, if not longer.
God, your official time for this match, I got it right here. 8 minutes, 33 seconds. Felt like an Iron Man match, to be honest. Excuse me.
I mean, it felt like 30, let alone 13.
By the way,
just terrible.
Just to conclude in a fucking countout.
Yes, and then a save by Ahmed Johnson when the Nation decided to attack The Rock. I mean, we got a little early version of the Rock Bottom. Does that count for anything? It doesn't really, but terrible.
They called it weird name too.
Yeah, I can't remember what they called it, but Thank God they changed that.
I know it's also the end of an era. I'm pretty sure this is the last time we'll get to talk about PG-13 because this was their last pay-per-view appearance, right? Or did they make it through King of the Ring? I know they had a match.
No,
They had a match on
they
Raw after this.
they were with Nation of Domination In Your House 15 rapping. I
Okay.
watched that today, and they were there.
All right, well, we get more Jamie Dundee. Hooray. We're going to talk about it more. Yeah. So if you look up in the history books, guys, yeah, you're not going to see Savio Vega as the Intercontinental Champion. Obviously, Rocky Maivia won by countout. Just to progress this to the next month after the match, we're going to get a gauntlet match, Matt. My Jesus Christ.
Yes. As Ahmed saves The Rock, he accepts Farouk's challenge to a gauntlet match. We don't have to sit through it here, but we do in 2 weeks' time when we get to In Your House 15. And that's special, ladies and gentlemen. You've got that special moment to look forward to.
God have mercy on our pitiful little souls. You've already watched it, so I've still got to go up to the executioner and put a blindfold on myself. Not Terry Gordy, executioner.
Dreadful.
Where are we at next? Let's get the fuck away from this match because I can't do it anymore.
We are. Doc Hendricks is with Mark Moreau and Sable, and this interview, it's all about Sable and her slammy victory. Mark Moreau's injuries glossed over a lot, and he was injured end of February. I think I mentioned it on the In Your House 13 review. He wouldn't come back until August, September time, I don't think, and then that was as the boxer gimmick.
Yep. We'll get there down the road when he comes back. I know when he first came back in that new gimmick for like the first 2 weeks, fans were actually like, "This is kind of cool."
Yeah.
Especially the TKO that nobody had ever seen that move before. That was awesome.
And then it just petered out.
This promo just segued in like the Steve Austin angle, right?
Yes, it did. So behind Mark Moreau and Sable, we saw Steve Austin entering his locker room. And then seconds later, there was a big commotion. Sounded like a fight. And Owen Hart and Davey Boy come out with like bent and broken weapons, hinting that they'd attacked Austin in the locker room.
I feel like in this time right now, The Undertaker winning the belt a month before at WrestleMania 13 was kind of like a thank you for your service, and you're always fucking over no matter how bad business is. But I think it's fair to say in 1997, The Undertaker was what CM Punk was in 2011, where he was the champ. He was like but Cena was always still main eventing stuff because Cena had the main angles of like John Laurinaitis, and Bret Hart and Austin main evented this pay-per-view,
Yeah. I love how you're glossing over what actually came next. Like, you've gone straight into Undertaker.
I'm trying to forget it.
Is it PTSD, Travis? Like, you just don't want to remember it. My God, because what we got next wasn't a great WWF Championship defense. What we got next was Jesse James, who would go on to be Road Dogg, versus Rockabilly. I mean,
I wasn't trying to gloss over it. I knew what was next, but I was just kind of prolonging it. Does it make sense?
it does. I mean, do you remember the build up to this match? Like, I had to go back and look because I'd wiped it from my memory, but it was just several weeks of Honky Tonk Man teasing a new protege.
Jobbers. Let's say it. Jobbers. All jobbers.
Jobbers, yeah. Jobbers. I think he even propositioned Jesse James at one point, and then Jesse James smashed his guitar on the April 7th Raw, and then Billy Gunn had even turned Honky Tonk Man down. And it was just Honky Tonk Man torturing Jesse James in a way, and then sort of getting his new protege to go to war against Jesse James. I'm building this at way too much, Travis, for what we actually got.
This entire angle at this time with the Honky Tonk Man fit in current WWF then, as well as I would at a Cardi B concert. It felt like a year later when the NWA shit was going on. It just didn't fit. It just felt so out of time and so time machiney in 1980s. This was awful. Nobody cared about it then. It's even worse now. It's aged terribly. Billy Gunn I mean, look at the guy. Not, I mean, yeah, he still looks great today, but I feel like Billy Gunn in his prime today, there's no reason he couldn't be like a Hangman Adam Page. Billy Gunn was in an era, in my opinion, where like there's just so much fucking talent. There was inevitable he was going to get pushed to the side as a mid card act, but now I feel like he could be a top guy. But they didn't know what the fuck to do with either one. And if you would have told me that this will go down as one of the greatest tag teams of all time a year later, after watching this match and this angle, I don't even know what to think. Like, that's ridiculous sometimes how, like that, I don't know if you could hear me snap my fingers, but it did. A guy's career can just change for the better at the drop of a dime. Just sheer luck. The Outlaws weren't meant to be anything. Just luck. Just like the Hart Foundation with Jim Neidhart and Bret Hart just thrown together. It just put us together. And look what became of it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, totally agreed. And can you imagine Billy Gunn's face when they said to him, "Look, we're splitting the Smoking Guns. We're going to repackage you. We're going to come up with something brand new for you." All that excitement, and then they go, "Here's Rockabilly." Can you imagine it just drained out of his face?
Or like, okay, they pitch him that, and then he's so desperate since the Smoking Guns just to have anything. He's like, all right. So goes home, talks to his wife. Well, they pitched this Rockabilly thing at me. I'm going to try it. And the next day he goes to Stanford. All right, here's your theme music. They hit play, and they... What the fuck? What the fuck?
Here's my notice. Goodbye.
I feel like another guy maybe could have got this over more. Just Billy Gunn didn't have the charisma required for this gimmick. You had to be a zany goofball fuck to make this gimmick work.
Yeah. He didn't fit the outfit, the song, the jeans.
The outfit! Was it small on him? I didn't notice. Little snug?
When he turned his back to the camera, Travis, I could read his lips, quite literally.
It said, fuck my life. Match-wise, just another case of boring as shit.
This was awful.
This was wrestling school drills.
It was. He had all the heel tropes, the begging off, the eye pokes, etc. But this was just every house show match Billy Gunn and Jesse James ever had as single stars. And I don't know. The ending was even more questionable. Rockabilly went for the suplex, and then Jesse James just snatches him in an inside cradle for the victory. Like, what the fuck was this? Surely the whole point was for the Honky Tonk Man to get his revenge on Jesse James, even by dubious heel means. But you debut a brand new character for a former tag team champion who was going nowhere as a single star, and then you have him losing his first match.
Yeah, what a way to rejuvenate a guy.
Just dead on arrival, this gimmick.
And not only lose that first match in his debut, but who he lost it to and where his gimmick was and how over he was at the time. Nobody gave a shit about fucking Jesse James. Nobody.
No. And they gave even less of a shit about Rockabilly after this. And you know what was worse still, Travis? This was the free-for-all match on In Your House 15.
Ugh. God.
I sat through.
Yeah, 6 minutes, 46 seconds. That's all I was going to say. Sorry, man.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Another bad match. Just fill time. You could have given this to the main event. You could have given this to Undertaker and Mankind. I'd have preferred 6 minutes and, 30 seconds of adverts. Just anything other than that.
You know what I've never understood? Maybe it's just me in the history of wrestling, is when you give a guy the musician gimmick, right? Double J, Real Jesse James, Man Mountain Rock, whatever you call him, Max Payne. How is that intimidating? Like what part of him being a musician is relevant to being a professional wrestler? Yeah. If anything, you would think it makes him more susceptible to like losses because he's not fully invested in honing his craft. He's got to focus on two crafts, so he's easier to beat in kayfabe. I just never got it. Is this a Bret Hart promo next?
This is Kevin Kelly with Austin and Gorilla Monsoon, WWF president, of course. And Austin says there's no way anyone's keeping him from the ring tonight. And I love the real babyface defiance that Austin shows here. Just before Gorilla Monsoon moves Bret and Austin to the main event, just to give him time to recover from the Owen Hart and Davey Boy attack.
Up next, I I don't hate this match either, but I feel like these two had such other classics together. This is inevitable. This is going to get overlooked. This is really a one-spot match, but WWF Championship match, The Undertaker, Mankind,
Yes.
Paul Bearer, the whole storyline, burning The Undertaker. They needed someone. This was the era, too, like when Shawn Michaels won the belt a year before. They always had that guy, the In Your House, a month after Mania, just a transitional win for the new champ, Diesel. Here it was Mankind. It was an easy feud to go back to. Of course, these two feuded for all of 96. So go right back to it. We thought one final time. Little did we know a year later their most classic match would happen. This was okay. This wasn't obviously not their best match. It just Mick Foley, of course, was goddamn insane, a madman. Just some of the bumps he took into the guardrail on the outside. The Undertaker literally just pushing him as hard as he could. Just for me, the one thing I remember back when this happened, I remember like when Mankind went through the table head first. I remember that feeling like a bigger deal back then. I feel like you could hear it in Vince McMahon a lot in Mick Foley matches at this time. He just got quiet on the mic. It was really Jim Ross selling because I feel like Vince hated the spots. He didn't want to put it over.
No, and I mean, you can understand that. It was a risk with talent that he wasn't comfortable taking because obviously he's seen ECW begin to do it and, the effect it would have on their talent, etc. But I mean, Mick Foley took these bumps with panache, Travis. Like you said, the spot where he went head first with the table, and then he just stuck out like a fucking tent peg. Like you could have hammered him into the ground. That was very well done.
Yeah.
I will disagree with you a little bit. This was my match of the night, more so than Bret Hart and Austin. I liked all the spots. I liked how Mankind pushed the Undertaker. What else did we have? The smashing the glass jug over the Undertaker's head on the outside, steel chair shots.
Forgot about that one. Good.
It's steel step shots, and it wasn't all just hardcore stuff in front of the referee.
No, they got their shit in. They got their signature stuff in too.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
They got all the stuff in. There was some good drama as well, and I think this match is more remembered for what happened afterwards than the match itself. But as a WWF Championship match, it was solid enough.
I think, excuse me, match wise, this is much better than Survivor Series '96 with these two.
Oh, much better. Survivor Series '96 was, I think, just a vehicle, to reintroduce a new type of Undertaker.
Yeah, that was totally a house show match. That match.
Yeah, well, this was a proper pay-per-view main event. And this could have gone on as main event, and people would have gone home happy. We talk about the botch.
Yeah, I was just about to say we all know the elephant in the room.
Yeah. So the whole, leading into this was Mankind and Paul Bearer had burnt the Undertaker, and now the Undertaker was going to get his revenge. So they tried to do it again, and the whole point was the Undertaker would reverse Paul Bearer into Mankind, who would light the taper and burn Paul Bearer by accident. But this went to shit. Mick Foley couldn't light that touch paper. Undertaker just fumbled about with Paul Bearer. He pulled him back. They staggered about. He tried to throw him into Mick Foley again, but he still couldn't light the touch paper. And in the end, Mark Calloway just went, you know what, fuck it. He snatched the touch paper from Mankind, threw Paul, just held him, like brutally held him in the corner while he burnt his face. It looked so awful and heelish, but the fans ate it up.
And if anything, goes back to what I said earlier, during this whole shitfest fiasco of botches, you could just literally feel Vince McMahon sitting there seething at this shit show he was watching in his ring.
Absolutely. Like, great match. Terrible finish afterwards.
Yeah.
But, I think credit to The Undertaker, because that could have ended, looked really dumb.
Right.
You know what I mean? Had he just said, fuck it, tombstone Paul Bearer, and walked away. He was committed to burn his face off.
I think
just giving the fans the payoff.
I think also this kind of pulled the curtain back too, or you say taper, the paper and stuff, the flash paper.
Yeah.
But they were booking it like it was a fireball. So now, it's like, well, we saw now.
Yeah.
No, we can't call it a fireball anymore. I think that's another reason Vince is probably fucking pissed. I know the next night on Raw when I saw the highlight, I think that's the cold open they showed, was him setting his face on fire in slow motion, by the way, on cable television, and it was shocking as fuck. Shout out to Paul Bear for taking that. Straight up.
Yeah, totally. Because like Mark Calloway got right in close with that. You know, usually you can keep a bit of a distance and get your hands up, but he was right on his face with it.
And imagine, that's just somebody Taker loved. Imagine him like Muhammad Hassan and the heat they had. Jesus God. We've almost done it though, Matt. It's main event time. Out of almost main event, excuse me.
Almost main event, because what they did next, and I don't know whether you got this on the network version, it might have just been on the DVD version, but we got a promo for In Your House 15.
Yeah, we got it.
You got it, which totally ruined the main event.
Yeah. Yeah.
It advertised The Undertaker versus Stone Cold for the WWF Championship, and yet we hadn't seen the main event for the #1 contendership yet, so that was brilliant product placing.
By this point in the pay-per-view, Vince McMahon had steam coming out of his ears.
So many fuck-ups, just one after the next.
Just think about it, too. This was the all-time, besides now, lowest ratings in business for they're getting destroyed by WCW. There's just salt in the wound, all these tech errors. That was a huge one, too. That's one of the biggest blunders in the history of that company that no one talks about, this little Cold Day in Hell thing. My God. But for the live fans, I guess, in attendance, unless they showed it on the Tron, they could have.
Yeah. I mean, they might have done, but just, you surely got to get fired for that. Like, you've just give away not only the main event, the result of the main event, but all drama and mystery surrounding it. It's just like, I'd fire someone for that if I was Vince McMahon. You know, you've already had the botch with The Undertaker, and you're seething already. Just, I bet he marched backstage, had a little dance of Flash Funk, and then fired whoever did that.
Yeah, 100%. I think this match is easily the bastard son of all the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view trilogy these two had. Yes. Never gets talked about. Most people don't even remember this match existing. For good reason. I mean, a month before, we just had one of the little greatest matches of all time with these two. I think it was kind of setting yourself up for failure to book them a month later. How do you fucking follow that so fast?
They'd done well from Survivor Series to WrestleMania to get them, sort of keep them apart, singles match wise. All right, they collided at the Rumble, and you know, Austin was attacking Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation whenever he could, etc. But there was never any solid Bret Hart versus Steve Austin. You know what I mean? On TV or pay-per-view. House shows, they did it all across the world.
Yeah.
But television, pay-per-view wise, they mostly did well to keep them apart. But this was just like panic mode. You know, Austin's lost twice to Bret. We need to get him his win back. We need to push him into the main event. I understand why to a degree, but this was just, it was the wrong decision, because this wasn't a great match. Like you say, for me it would go, a lot of people would say WrestleMania, Survivor Series, then this, but I'd go Survivor Series, WrestleMania, then this, but obviously not by much on the first two.
I think for an in-ring like clinic style, I got to put Survivor Series first. But I think for the total package of all of them, obviously Mania 13 had everything. As far as drama,
I like how different people like have their different favourites of the Bret Hart Austin thing as well. You don't get that often.
Yeah.
But this definitely, I think, comes third on everyone's list.
Yeah, this was a house show match with them again.
Yeah. I mean,
and for these budget $20 2-hour in your houses at the time, I guess I kind of get it.
But then I feel like, and I've written this down here, I feel like this was the match where it showed they'd run out of ideas.
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
You know what I mean? They'd done so much good at Survivor Series and even more good at WrestleMania. And then they get here, and it's just like, we've got nothing else. We've done everything in them first two matches.
A lot of their rugs kept getting swept from under them. Like, you know, obviously the loss of my smile with Sean. Sid just dipping out for softball, I guess, again. The plan for Brian Pillman to come back a month later and start the program with Austin. Little did they know that Brian Pillman was like 5% of what he used to be after the car wreck.
Yeah.
So they never really went that way. Michaels would come back at King of the Ring. some shockingly finding his smile. Things would obviously fall back into place, but right now there's a lot of unknown with their top talent in the booking. I think that's why you saw them go back to the easy Mankind Undertaker feud. I mean, there was no Sid. We might have gotten a rematch with Sid. There wasn't top talent here right now. There just wasn't.
No, there wasn't. I think even the fans sort of recognised like Austin and Bret Hart had run out of ideas as well as the WWF for them, because they cheered Bret Hart in this and they weren't in Canada.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? I think there was it's a weird match, Travis. It's, you know, if anyone's going to go back and watch this after listening to us, be prepared for a sort of a weird aura. You know, that the crowd didn't react how Vince wanted. This wasn't Vince's night at all, was it?
No. Well, I think the Mania 13 match, there's such a love letter written with fans how that's when Austin turned babyface. They don't realize, no, 2 more months, Cold Day next month, they were cheering Taker against Austin, 100%.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full-on babyface turn, I feel like, until the Hart Foundation stable was formed and it became America versus Canada. And I think the underlying patriotism and all that shit kind of is what sealed the deal with Austin being a babyface and going against the evil foreigners or blah, blah, blah. As cliche and as out of touch and out of time as that was at the time, it was kind of the underlying thing that brought that all together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And, it comes over here. It's like they weren't sold on Austin yet.
They were getting there.
I
feel like with kids, too, kids were also like, especially if they went with like their parents, right, and their younger kids, they were afraid to cheer Steve Austin. They might get in trouble. You know, it would. Yeah. People don't understand how different of a superstar Steve Austin was in this time. Nobody was that vulgar, at all. Nothing like that. No. This tweener character. I mean, we kind of had that in WCW, but we were getting like Walt Disney Steve Austin with DDP. Like he was still the tweener character, but he wasn't like giving fingers and drinking beer.
No. No, do you know? And I think this was a mistake. I know that we're coming into Canadian Stampede, etc., and the height of the Austin Brett feud. But for me, giving Austin Brett again so soon was a mistake, because obviously, like, people still love Bret Hart even though he was a heel. Still weren't sold on Austin as a babyface. So you give him Owen, you give him the Bulldog, you give him the Anvil. If you can, you give him Pillman, and then you possibly build, to Bret and Austin again down the line for one big payoff. You give him all the certain heels, rather than someone who's just turned heel, who people still actually quite adore.
It's just so weird to me that this pay-per-view was called Revenge of the Taker, and that didn't main event, especially because that had a decisive finish. Your main event here ended in a DQ, and that's how you got your number one contender off of disqualification. Again, and I hate to keep saying it because Mick Foley is my favorite wrestler of all time. If anyone doesn't know that, yes, I love Mick Foley. He's just the biggest overachiever, the best guy outside of the ring, the best promo of all time, in my opinion. But I feel like this just goes to show Vince McMahon had no fucking faith in Mick Foley. Mick Foley was a Jim Ross signing. Jim Ross had to convince up and down for Vince McMahon to even give Cactus Jack a second look. Okay? I just feel like Vince McMahon just resented Mick Foley, didn't think that he could carry the ball, and this is another case of it, a last-minute booking change for a schmoz bullshit boring match finish. Poor Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Mick Foley busted his ass in that match.
He did, and he must have sat in the back looking at this going, what have I got to do? Like, what have I got to do to make him love me?
Well,
Daddy,
we saw
why don't you love me?
A year later, we saw what it really would have to do to be taken seriously by Vince McMahon. Almost kill yourself and jumping 30 fucking feet. That's what it took.
Yeah.
Well,
very true.
With that is Revenge of the Taker. Steve Austin, number one contender. Up next month, Cold Day in Hell, Steve Austin, Undertaker, WWF title match. What do you grade, though, Matt? Revenge of the Taker.
Before I go into the grading, there were 2 dark matches after this event for the live audience. I just not sat through enough. Furnace and LaFon defeated the Godwins, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeated Goldust in the 2 dark matches after the event had gone off air.
Not to be outdone by your official main event of this entire show for the fans live in attendance, Triple H and Goldust. Wow. Holy shit. You couldn't just bring out like Steve Austin and Taker and Brett and somebody for a tag match to send the fans. That's what you send them home happy with?
You could have done Mankind and Bret Hart, couldn't you, versus Austin and Taker?
There you go.
But no.
Boom. Perfect.
Exactly, but no. Can't do that.
Oh,
End it on Helmsley and Goldust.
And that, if I'm not mistaken, 20 minutes and 43 seconds. Your main event, Goldust and Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yes.
Woof.
And I haven't seen it yet, but I do know it's on a DVD I have, so maybe we'll delve into that on Union Smack Shorts sometime.
I'm gonna grade this pay-per-view for me just right down the middle, a solid C. It wasn't too much shit to the left or too much good to the right. It was just, it sufficed enough to like keep me occupied for 2 hours. But it wasn't torture, you know.
No, compared to 15, which I watched just prior to us coming on air, I'm gonna give it a B minus because what's to come is just trash. So I've got something to compare it against going forward. So for me, B minus. Undertaker Mankind is well worth a look. If you're interested in the Bret Austin rivalry, then obviously the match is worth a watch. Don't expect great things from it. Rockabilly versus Jesse James has to be seen to be believed. You're never going to see Savio Vega as number one contender again. So, lap it up while you can. But for me, B minus. It was a one-match show. But it was a good match.
Yeah. And you know what, guys? Honestly, just listen to us review it. Don't even watch it. We got you covered.
That's why we do this. So we go through the pain. So you don't have to.
We're like a public service announcement for bad professional wrestling. One more time before we get out of here, I do want to say real quick, I hope everyone had a great 2021. Hope everyone had a great holiday. Hope everyone has a great new year. As always, on Twitter, @HussHogan. Matt, I want to say right here on air to you, it's so glad to be back. You've been missed on the channel, coming back in full force. The outpouring support from people, new platforms, new horizons next year. Cheers, my friend. Cheerio, mate. One more time, where can everyone catch you?
Thank you, Travis. And right back at you. We've missed you. And like I said, this is just great to have you back in my life again after such a long break that we had. But you can find me on Twitter @BruiserMates. Go to lulu.com where you can purchase a copy of my book, The Undertaker at Death. I'll start that again. Fucked up the last line of the year. You can purchase a copy of my book, The Undertaker: A Trip Down Death Valley, NXT UK Year 1. And I can officially say in 2022, if I've not been worked to death, then we will have King of the Ring, the book I've been trying to write for about 2 years now. History of the King of the Ring, all the stories, qualifying matches, all the little backstage bits that you might know, you might not know, all combined into one book. I'm hoping to get that out by the end of 2022. So that is definitely coming. And thank you, everyone. Just thank you very much. And a happy new year to you all.
Have a great New Year's, guys. Be safe. And until next time, from Union Smat, happy holidays. Cheerio, mates.